Hello everybody, welcome back to another high Elo casting. Today here, heading on to the nice Christmassy winter map. Onto the EU West server. Some unique matchups here. We have a Poppy into Malphite in top lane. First strike, Gragas into a Jax in jungle. Akshan into Katarina in mid lane. And the bot lane duos, Jhin, Leona against Ezreal, Soraka here, as we're going to have an early engage from the Leona onto the Jax. The exhaust is going to come through as well as the Ignite. It's a flash forward from the Jhin. It's going to be first blood going over to him. Not even needing to count to 4. Only takes 1. And that's a kill early for the Jax. Now, Ignite from Akshan, flash from Jhin, and both summoner spells from Leona. Jax choosing not to flash. We won't be able to hold on to that for a later date. But Jhin is going to back immediately and buy the boots. Remember, I remember a time when we used to see the boots start on Jhin, boots refillable pot, which was interesting times. Didn't really do all too much damage early on, but just to get him moving a little bit quicker. Now, with Ezreal Soraka, it's going to be a little bit more of a passive lane, but definitely not going to be one to shy away from. With a Jax as well, Soraka going to be providing a lot of value. Now this mid lane matchup is ranged into melee, so the Earnest is on Akshan to apply extra bits of pressure and potentially even look for roams after shoving out waves. But for the time being, all we'll probably see is abilities being thrown out to poke down the opposition. Ezreal. Not quite in range to be hit by a Leona Q, and there's no flash to be able to take any kind of chunks out of his health. And Malphite already getting zoned off of some of this wave here. He's going to be down a couple of minions. And the Poppy with the grasp, able to proc it with the passive ranged auto. It's just going to make life a tiny bit difficult now. Both junglers pathing into bot. Both of them are just completing their raptor camps now as Katarina looks for an engagement to Akshan. Level 3 has popped. And it's a decent trade for Katarina. Goes in for seconds. Doesn't lead to any kind of fatalities. As Jhin is just absolutely being peppered by these Ezreal Qs, these Mystic shots, but there's going to be a Zenith Blade to engage in. Aftershock will proc onto Soraka, but it's not going to be enough to deal any kind of significant damage. There's no threat of lethal. Now, Malphite is going to drop Poppy quite low. The Q does land, and it's going to be the kill. Here goes. Zenith Blade in onto the Soraka. Ezreal will pick up the first kill onto the Leona, and it's Gragas who will be coming in from the top. Deadly Flourish is going to be able to root up the Ezreal. As Gragas might look to flash over the wall. Has he got the body slam? Has got it up and ready. Could look for a flash here. Silence hasn't come out from Soraka, but who does Gragas go for? Body slam's going to miss, as now Ezreal will begin to go in on that. Jax is now here though, so Gragas on the back foot. It's going to tank a decent chunk of damage as Jax jumps in onto the Jhin. Barrier having to be popped to stop any kind of damage from coming down that would be lethal. Meanwhile, Leona's looking for a mid lane play here. Katarina's going to be coming up from the underside. Going to be going in onto Akshan. Zenith Blade managed to stun her up. The Ignite is ticking away. Shield from the passive is going to be just enough as Katarina has to get away now. Looking in a bad spot as the Q comes through. The empowered auto attack. And that exhaust proving to be the deciding factor as Akshan escapes with a slither of HP. Both summoner spells used for the mid laners. And that is absolutely what you want. Keeping the Katarina behind, making life as difficult as possible. But they're going to have to be able to consistently keep this up, and if Leona goes mid lane 24/7, then Jin's going to lose out to Ezreal Soraka. And it will lead to some powerful bot lane action. Now, Katarina will immediately look for another re-engage onto the Akshan. Deals a decent chunk of damage with the Electrocute. But Akshan doesn't take too much damage from that, as Jax is looking for topside here. Poppy is going to be dropping low, but Ezreal does get caught up with a double root. Deadly Flourish into Zenith Blade. Stun lands onto Soraka. There's the Essence Flux landing onto Leona. Ezreal fully stacked up now. Is he going to be trying to go for the kill? But meanwhile, Malphite in topside going to be able to claim that kill onto the Poppy underneath the turret. But the spot lane of Soraka and Ezreal, they need to be a little bit cautious because look at this wave. To get Jhin damage, the wave itself is going to be dealing more. But Ezreal is going to be stepping up a slight bit forward here. Does spot out the Leona with the Mystic Shot. Flash forward from Leona is going to land on Soraka as the Essence Flux combo is going to take down Leona. Ezreal now going forward, flashing forward onto the Jhin. No E available, no Arcane Shift as Gragas comes in over the corner, able to get that first strike proc, and it's going to be dealing a decent chunk of damage to Ezreal. He's in a bad spot. The Mystic Shots aren't going to be enough. He's going to be trying to go for the kill here onto the Ezreal. Arcane Shift, not going to be able to dodge away from that cast. Slam coming down, and it's an Ezreal taken down. 2 for 1 in bot lane. As now Katarina might look to take a little bit extra. Comeuppance will be primed. And does not Katarina quite low. But the Death Lotus has been used. Soraka now in mid lane. Akshan has taken a second to cloak himself. Will be spotted out now. Soraka makes her presence known. And there's a Gragas on the other side of this wall. Santa Claus says hi, have you been naughty or nice? He charges up the W, and here comes Leona from the bot side, and here's Poppy from the top. Soraka's going to be the first one to get rooted up. Zenith Blade locks her down, and the stun comes through onto the wall. Poppy landing it through, having to flash over the wall, but now it's going to be a close one. The ranged auto attack able to connect onto the healing horses. There's going to be a second Zenith Blade going out there. Katarina's locked up, but Akshan's not able to connect the auto attacks from the grappling hook. Poppy's still here, though. Keeper's Verdict not available just yet. Jax has just hit level 6, so the Grandmaster's might be able to come into play. But for the moment, he will just take a defensive stance. Counter-Strike used to secure some waves as Leona's going to dive under the turret now. Not able to claim the kill. Soraka makes an appearance back as the silence goes through onto the Leona. Burning down. Katarina's going to try and close the gap as Soraka's keeping her alive. Meanwhile, though, Ezreal's found Akshan. You're not quite invisible, my friend. You've been called out by the Ezreal, and that's an Architect. Architaken. That kill from the mid laner, and that's going to be Akshan's first death this game. As Soraka, it seems, posturing a little bit further forward. What's the biggest threat to a Yordle? Well, fun fact, the biggest threat to a Soraka is going to be a Zenith Blade. It comes in now as the stun is going to be primed and ready. Lands on the Katarina. It's an explosive cast that lands over the wall and kills, takes her down. Soraka now in a 1v2, but a Keeper's Verdict will make it so that it's much more difficult for her to try and escape. No get out there. Double kill over to Gragas. With those Sork shoes and the blasting one, dealing a decent chunk of damage, but guess what? Malphite's been left alone in this top side. And Akshan's going up to try and counter him, but he's already got a chain vest, 2 kills in his pocket, double the poppies at CS, and now he's just going to stand there menacingly. Let alone disconnected, in fact. And as he makes his way back to base, he will be trying to restart his computer. Jax looks for an engage onto the Gragas here. 2 to 1 in terms of grubs. Jax going to be trying to get the third kill, but the auto doesn't go out, and the flash saves the Gragas. But now Katarina finds Poppy, finds Akshan. It's a 2 versus 2, but a level 5 Soraka is not going to be able to use the wish to keep the the Katarina alive. Death Lotus now comes through. It's going to be a battle of endurance. Who can stay alive longer? Soraka not able to keep the Katarina alive in time to be able to kill that Poppy. As now Akshan will look for a second kill. And it seems like only a matter of time. And claims the comeuppance. Ezreal is in a very bad spot here. On the wrong side of the lane. Double root, double stun. But Leona's going to be the one who gets the kill. Not able to go into the pocket of the Jhin, but it's now 3 shutdowns over to this blue side. And what started out as a very promising start has slowly shifted. Malphite TPing back to lane on that reconnect is going to be tanking up a couple of turret shots, but it's in exchange for some damage onto this topside turret. Still, even with the disconnect, Poppy down on farm by almost 30. Akshan now will go in. Malphite not in the best of spots, but has got the unstoppable force. Will he need to use it? Is the question. Opting not to. 11 to 6 is the kill line. 2k is the gold difference, thereabouts. But the first Drake will look to be shifting into the hands of this red side as there is a Gragas preparing to engage onto the Ezreal. Let's see who's going to belong in the museum after this, as Leona sees the Katarina go over the wall. The ward is now on. They see the Drake going down. Can they claim it in time? Gragas is nowhere to be seen. But now they have to try and get some value from sacking this Drake. They have to try and get these kills on the bot laners. As Poppy and Katarina do a little dance, do a little shindig, dare I say, as Leona going to be taking a little bit more of a forward stance. The curtain's call, and it's Ezreal the target. 1 shot, 2 shots will land, 3 shots connect. Ezreal dropping down low, but Soraka's going to be able to heal him back up relatively quickly. Katarina goes in, and meanwhile the Zenith Blade will come through onto the Ezreal, going onto the turret as Leona will get rooted. There's still no wish on the Soraka, who's going to be tanking up a 4th shot. No, just about escaped. Keeper's verdict knocking Katarina out of there. As now, Wish is available, does get popped immediately, as Leona will take another re-engage. But Ezreal gets popped once more. The 4th shot proves too much, as Ezreal was Akshan dodging away from that counter-strike using the flash. Jack's no ward, but has got the leap. Grandmaster's Might and no mana means a shutdown going into the pocket of him. The Ixtali Lamp wielder makes Akshan his prize. Katarina gets shoved under the turret, not able to claim any kind of kill, and that's own 4 for her. But Jax sees if he might be able to get a clean-up kill here, but Poppy might be too difficult to deal with, as he will just cheekily claim a turret placing there. A little bit of gold going into his pocket. Looking at this game now, the first items are starting to come through for those of who are very fed. Ezreal will most likely have the Triforce on the reset. Has all 3 components, it's just about being able to back and get it off. Gragas also sitting on a Lich Bane here. That's the Triforce for Ezreal. Jhin taking the Collector up first, and Akshan with a Static Shiv means that these waves are going to basically be pushed up 24/7. Katarina will take an engage over. Leona's there to land the stun. Solar Flare comes through as well. Root does connect, but it takes Leona deeper under the turret. She is now tanking. It's ramping up in damage as she will try and tank it up for the Akshan, who will take 1 turret shot, but it's not going to be enough to claim a kill. Ezreal has got the True Shot Barrage. Could try and look for the kill onto the Akshan, but Malphite might take it himself. Gragas is now here, taking down the Soraka, but here is Malphite. Goes in with the Unstoppable Force and manages to land it on the Akshan. That's 1 over to him. And Jhin is now looking for a potential 1v1 against the Ezreal. We'll see how this goes. It's item v item. But there's fights going all over the place. Leona does get hit by the Q eventually, as Ezreal not able to quite claim it. That's the 4th shot primed. Doesn't have... Oh, does have the flash. Jhin uses it forward, but the Wish comes out in perfect timing. The Q lands, and that's going to be a dead Jhin. Shutdown goes over to the Ezreal. And that Wish couldn't have been more perfectly timed. Soraka flashing forward to keep her ADC alive. Because right now, Katarina is not having a good day. Currently in the face of the Poppy. Now Leona is going to make her way forward. Akshan and Gragas are on the move. And this Leona's just not taking any damage, it seems. Solar Flare comes through onto the Soraka. That's the first target. He'll come through early on. Not going to be enough to keep her alive. Ezreal now the target. Going to be taken down momentarily. It's Akshan they want the kill to go over to. Trying not to make sure they're not trading it away for a Leona kill. And it's a 2 for Zilch on the bot side refight. Now Jhin going to be taking some chunks out of the Malphite here. But Malphite very much interested in that turret, not going to be able to get it, and in fact Jhin gets another kill. Over eager is Malphite, as that will be first turret taken on bot side. Gold going over to Akshan and Leona as Poppy will find Katarina. Remember, those dashes are not quite dashes, they are blinks. So Poppy's steadfast presence will not knock up Katarina upon her activating it. You can see the Katarina waiting for when the passive shields are out of action. Keeper's Verdict denies any kind of damage from the ultimate, and Poppy claims the kill. Now, Jhin, the target of the Malphite. Unstoppable force going to be used as Jhin will use this time to claim the wave. Does get a turret, but Malphite claims shutdown. Now, Chemtech Drake... Oh, now, despite the deficit, red side is still up 1 Drake. So we will see the soul after this. It cannot be a Hextech soul. It cannot be a Chemtech soul. Ocean... Oh, is the main verdict here, but then it will be Ocean Soul, in fact. But Jax in a bad spot. Counter-Strike is going to be used, though, and Akshan will be the first to fall. Wish comes through, so that keeps the Jax alive a little bit longer. Leona dives in, but it's not going to be quite enough, as Ezreal now goes forward. Arcane shift forwards. Crucial Barrage does go slightly wide, not able to pick up the kill onto the Gragas. But a very, very good fight over for this red side. It does bring the gold back ever so slightly, and they do manage to confirm that second Drake, and it's an Ocean Soul, which means that champs like Malphite, like Jax, who want to be taking these long-winded fights, are going to be benefiting massively from the healing that comes with it. And that's going to end up being feats as well going over to this red side. So, that early power of the Leona, while it did prove hard to deal with, the Soraka is now starting to be a bigger pest, it seems. As Ezreal does just look for some poke damage. Soraka tanking a turret shot does take a decent chunk. There's 3 members of the blue team on this blue side. Leona and Gragas are now camping up in the bush. Poppy can bait herself forward here. She has got the stats. And Frozen Heart picked up for Malphite. That means that Akshan is going to have a much harder time being able to constantly spam auto attacks in. Poppy lands the stun onto Ezreal. Zenith Blade connects, and the Solar Flare is able to prolong that stun. Ezreal having to cleanse away and move away back as well. But Jax is now here. The counter-strike. Soraka is keeping her ADC alive. Gragas is now here. Can he do some massive damage? Body Slam comes in and the auto attacks there to enforce. Counter-strike now. Lands the stun onto Poppy. Poppy dropping low. Poppy going to be the first to fall as the comeuppance going to be stopped by a flash from the Katarina as now the curtain call. And Ezreal in a spot of bother here. The 4th shot will be landing onto him, and it's not going to be enough. He falls. And meanwhile, Malphite is enjoying his time in bot side, taking down this tier 1 bot side turret instead of getting involved in all the politics of the top side fight. But in the end, it's a 1-for-1. Jhin picks up the gold for the blue side, so now he'll be trying to back to close out his Infinity Edge. Natacon spawning in 1 minute and 30, comes alive at 20. This Herald's still in the pocket of Jax, which will most likely be sent topside. We can see him moving there now, in tandem with Malphite, the top laner. And still, not having the best game, Katarina. 0-6-1, but there is still time left. And all she needs is one good play, and all that deficit is dissipated. Zenith Blade connects. Stun continues the CC chain. Katarina is going to be able to get out of there. Gragas is now posturing here as Katarina sees the vision, but there are 3 members of the red side coming in to back up the mid lane. Soraka's going to be the first to find someone, as Ezreal uses the damage to get a little bit closer to killing that support. The damage is not quite enough to be able to claim it fully, and Katarina is traded before anyone else dies. But meanwhile, Malphite giving Poppy a little hello. That Frozen Heart really slowing down the amount of damage that the Poppy can do. An Unstoppable Force has not been used yet, but Malphite taking a significant amount of damage. Keeper's Verdict comes through, prolonging the DPS. Unstoppable Force used in response, and it's Malphite picking up the kill. It's a 1v1. It's a solo bolo for the Rockman. And Natacon is spawning on the bot side. Remember that Ocean Drake is also approaching imminently. So whoever wins this will have a massive advantage going into this potential soul point for the red side. Now a 2-item, fully stacked Muramana Ezreal. But an Infinity Edge for Jhin. So we can see, is this going to be a wallet diff or a hands diff? Ezreal taking some early initiative, poking out the members of the red side who look to try and make their way in. Curtain will be called early, as Malphite just looks to tank up the damage here. Poppy's going to be TPing into a rather precarious spot, but there is no unstoppable force to be able to keep her maintained in CC. Ezreal gets caught up by a Zenith Blade and a stun, but Leona is a little bit too far forward. Solar Flare going to be coming on, lands onto the Ezreal, but the Redemption is going to keep him alive. Leona's the first to fall, and now it's Poppy the target. Comeuppance is highlighted onto Jax. Is going to be able to connect, but it's not going to do all too much damage. As Malphite is being a proper nuisance in this front line. Jhin and Gragas not able to close any kind of gaps here to make their way in. But all it takes is one smite. Unstoppable Force does connect onto the Jhin. The Wish comes through to be able to keep people alive. Jax manages to stun up the Gragas, and that's Akshan falling on the sidelines. Flash forward, seals the deal as Gragas is taken down, and that Atachan will be going into the hands of this red side. Poppy will look for a consolation kill, and Katarina takes down the Jhin. So that's Atachan, and potentially the Soul Point Drake going into the hands of this red side, as it will be a surrender vote for the blue team, 4-1. That is GG.